Alright. Okay, so magandang araw sa inyo. Then, proceed na tayo sa susunod nating topic. It's all about the non-Mendelian genetics. No? Yan, so, in your grade 8 science, you have learned that in Mendel's work on pea plant, each gene came in just two different alleles. These alleles had shown dominance relationship, with the dominant allele fully overriding the recessive allele to determine the plant's appearance. However, it was discovered that inheritance is more complicated than the simple patterns observed by Gregor Mendel. And then usually, dito sa non-Mendelian genetics, no, dito napapasok yung complex inheritance patterns. No? So kung ano yung nagagawa natin dati sa monohybrid and then dihybrid cross, no, na ginawa natin last time, masyado pa siyang magiging komplikado. Pero sa ngayon, more on monohybrid na tayo. Monohybrid cross lang yung gagawin natin, which is 2x2. 2x2 box lang naman. And then, suddenly, sa monohybrid cross na yun, i-apply natin yung complex inheritance pattern. Masyado siyang komplikado na. No? Kumbaga, dinaanan lang natin yung basic nung grade 8 kayo para malaman nyo yung para maging fully aware kayo dito na may mas hihirap pa dun sa monohybrid cross na yun, no? According to other kind of word problem na ipapakita ko later on. So dito na papasok sa non-Mendelian genetics yung ilan sa mga law, no, or ilan sa mga laws related dito sa non-Mendelian inheritance. Just like una, law of incomplete dominance. No? So this principle states that a cross between homozygous dominant and recessive genes will result to a progeny of heterozygous genes determining an intermediate trait between the dominant trait and recessive trait. Then suddenly, nasa na ba ako? Both alleles exert an effect and jointly produce an intermediate or blended phenotype. No? So alamin natin kung ano ibig sabihin ng progeny kasi minabagit ang progeny. Ito yung another term for the descendant ng isang organism, or should we say it is a offspring. It is an offspring yan, no? And then suddenly nakita natin yung intermediate phenotype. Nakita natin na yun nga, from the word itself, blended, naghalo yung mismong homozygous dominant and then homozygous recessive into a heterozygous, no, or heterozygous in some other heterozygous allele, no. So from red mixing with white is equals to pink, di ba po? Alam naman na po natin yun. And then sampulan natin ng isang problem. In snapdragons, flower color is controlled by incomplete dominance. The two alleles are red, which is yung kanyang allele ay R, and then yung allele naman ng white is W. So the recessive the heterozygous genotype is expressed as pink. A pink flowered plant is crossed with a white flowered plant. What is the probability of producing a pink flowered plant? So dito natin na alamin. So yung procedure, yan, una, mag-assign tayo ng legend for a particular trait. So yung R, yun yung red. Yung W stands for white, and then yung RW stands for the blended color na tinatawag natin na pink. Kasi pinaghalo nga natin yung red at saka white, di ba? So next, determine the genotype of both parents. Yung RW, ipag-combine natin sa WW, pag-turn in some other term, pink, no, and then yung white, no, yun, na-determine na natin. So determine the alleles of the parent, no. So teka lang, bakit naging pink at saka white yun? Basahin natin na maigi. Kasi ayun nga, di ba? A pink flowered plant is crossed, no, with a flowered plant, no. So gets nyo na po, no, based dun sa question. So determine the alleles of the parents, no. So yung R and then W ipag-iwalay natin as well as yung WW. Then place the alleles in a Punnett square. So ayun na po. Nagawa na natin yung paggawa ng Punnett square, yung monohybrid cross, no? So RW and then dito yung WW. So yan nga, in-apply natin yung test cross. Yan. At based on our findings, base dito sa nakita ninyo, yung genotypic ratio dito is 2. 2:2, no? So 50% RW and then 50% WW, no? So kalahati sila, no? And then somehow in some other textbooks, pwede niyo gawin na 1:1, no, yung kanyang genotypic ratio. Pero it's almost the same, no? It's almost the same pa rin naman. Kumbaga, sinimplify ko lang naman. Pero pwede na rin to para mas makita ninyo kung bakit 2:2. No? Kasi kapag 1:1 yung lang yun nilagay ko, baka mag-arise kagad sa inyo yung question na yun. No? Kung bakit nangyari yung ganun. And then yung phenotypic ratio, katulad din dito sa genotype, nakita natin yung existence na 50% yung pink flower at saka yung 50% lang din yung white flower. No? Base sa kanilang existence dito sa kanilang test cross. So, yun lamang po. And then somehow, in law of complete dominance, heterozygous results to a progeny of red flower since it is a dominant gene, while in the law of incomplete dominance, heterozygous results to a progeny of a pink flower. So the dominant gene does not completely mask the recessive gene. That is why intermediate trait, no, which is yung pink, ay nag-a-appear talaga dito. No, base sa pagkakita ninyo. So now, we must need to determine the F2 generation or second filial generation based from the F1 generation test cross. So let's move on. So yan, what cross will produce the most pink flowered plant? No, base sa naging finding natin, di ba? Yan, ayan. And then somehow, nakita natin, ang gagamitin natin is yung red at saka yung white, no? RR times WW, no? Ayan, nakita natin. Kasi tinitignan kasi natin dito, di naman siya follow-up dun sa una nating ginawa, but ano lang siya, follow-up question regarding to the other kind of question na nandun sa number 1. So, RR times WW, no? So, red, imimix natin siya sa white, no? So, according to our findings, nakita natin na 4:0 or 1:0, no? Sinimplify ko na lang din. And then nakita natin na yung existence ng flower dito is kulay pink, no? So 100% RW, so as well as the phenotypic ratio, ganun din yung existence niya. So 100% na pink yung flower na lumabas dito base sa pagkaka-apply natin ng test cross, di ba? And then next po, sample problem number 2. In Andalusian chicken, black individuals or yung capital BB and then white individuals which are the capital W, WW are homozygous. A homozygous black chicken is crossed with a homozygous white chicken. So the offspring are all bluish gray. So ganito, alamin na natin. So yan, procedure, ganun lang din. Yung B stands for black, W stands for white, BW stands for the gray. Then ganyan lang din po. Apply lang natin yung una nating procedure. Tignan lang natin. Kumbaga hindi ko na po ulitin kasi nakita na po natin sa unang sample problem which is same lang din naman. Then i-apply na natin ang test cross. Ayan. So base sa existence nila, existence ng mismong offspring organism na nakikita nyo dyan, nag-mix yung black at saka yung white. So nakita natin yung existence ng genotypic ratio niya. So 4 or 4:0 or 1:0 yung mga gray chicken, no? I think it's a gray chicken, no? Or bluish gray or gray, no? Gray na ano ko na rin na gray chicken ang nakita natin dito, as well as yung kanyang phenotypic ratio is 100% na gray yung kulay ng manok na nakita natin according sa naging result dun sa test cross. So next po. So what results if a black chicken is crossed with gray chicken? So black at saka yung gray naman, no? So ganyan ho yung gagawin natin, BB and then BW. So yung kanilang genotypic ratio according sa naging finding dito is 50% yung BW at saka 50% yung BB. So as well as sa phenotypic ratio, same lang din naman. So 50% na gray chicken ang nag-exist and then 50% na black chicken din ang nag-exist. And then another follow-up question, if two gray individuals were crossed, what would be the ratio for both phenotype and genotype of the offspring? Na basta na pagkakita natin, BW, imimix natin sa BW, no? So ayan, in-apply natin ang test cross. So yung kanilang genotypic ratio is 1:2:1. So 25% yung BB, 50% yung BW and then 25% yung WW. As well as sa phenotypic ratio, they're almost the same, no? So 25% na black, 50% na gray, and then 25% na white na manok ang nakita natin, no? So ayan yung mga na-produce na offspring base sa kanilang kulay. So ayan na po yung answer. So the phenotypic ratio in the law of complete dominance is 3:1, no? 3 for red and 1 na white, no? However, in the law of incomplete dominance, the phenotypic ratio is different, no? Base sa yan nga nakita na natin, di ba? So ganun lamang po kasimple. So law of codominance. So this principle states that the cross between homozygous dominant genes and recessive genes will result to a progeny of heterozygous genes determining a phenotype where both the dominant trait and recessive trait are expressed. So just like for this, a red hair coat cow is mated with white hair coat cow. So the offspring of this cross produced roan cow, no, where both red hair and white hair appear interspersed with each other as color coat of the resulting cows, no? Then somehow, bago tayo mag-proceed sa sample problem number 3, kung i-compare natin sa law of incomplete dominance, sa law of incomplete dominance, nag-blend yung kulay ng dalawang parent, no? Yung mismong parent organism, no? And then dito naman sa law of codominance, kapag nag-mate, no, yung dalawang parent, no, ang magiging offspring nila is makikita hindi sila literally magmi-mix, kumbaga nag-interspersed lang, no. So ano bang ibig sabihin ng interspersed, no? So both exhibit the trait of two parents, no? So nakita natin yung existence ng white color, no, at saka yung red color na meron ng isang cow, no. Nakita natin. So sample problem number 3. If two roan cows are crossed, what is the expected genotypic and phenotypic ratio of their offspring? So, procedure, ganun lang din. R stands for red, W stands for white, and then RW stands for roan, no? Roan cow. Then, determine the genotype of both parents, RW and then RW. Kasi nakalagay dito, if two roan cows are crossed, no? Ayun po. So, next, determine the alleles of the parents. So, ganyan lang din po. So, according to our findings sa Punnett cross, Punnett square, or test cross, ayan, nakita natin na 25% lang yung RR, 50% yung RW, and then 25% yung kanyang WW, with a total of 100%, no? And then, in terms of phenotypic ratio, 1:2:1, yan, so 25% na red, 50% na roan, and then 25% na white. Same lang din po siya. Ganun lang po kasimple. And then, follow-up question, if a white cow is crossed with a roan cow, what will be the genotypic and phenotypic ratio of their offspring? So, RW times WW na nagawa na natin sa test cross. So, ang kanilang genotypic ratio is 2:2 or 1:1, no? Yan, nakita natin. 50% na RW and then 50% WW. So, nakita natin na 50% ang roan cow at 50% ang white cow. So, ganun lang po kadali. So, next po, if some chickens, the gene for feather color is controlled by codominance, the heterozygous phenotype is known as erminate chicken. So, yung erminate chicken, nakikita natin ng black and white spot, no? So, if two erminate chickens were crossed, what is the probability of black and white chick? No? So, pick up or yung mismong sisiw, no? So, we must assign the legend for the trait. Alam niyo naman na po yan. B stands for the black, W stands for white, and then BW stands for the erminate chicken, no? So, determine the alleles. Ba't ba na yun? Yan, nakita natin. Yan, so, ano lang naman siya. Yan, gagawa na natin yung ng Punnett square hanggang sa na-test na natin. So, yung kanilang genotypic ratio is 25% na BB, 50% yung BW, and then 25% ang WW. Same lang din po siya na phenotypic ratio, but somehow we must need to determine their phenotypic characteristic. So, yung BB na yun, so, the 25% BB na yun is 25% ang existence ng black chicken based dito sa test cross, 50% na gray, or should we say erminate, no? Yung gray na to or erminate, okay lang din po yan. Nabago ko na po. Yan po yung Erminet chicken. So, nakita natin yung probability ng black and white chicken. They are both 25%. No? Yan. Kasi po, yan yung probability na hinahanap natin with a total of 50% kapag combine natin. Pero according to our findings, they have both containing 25% only. So, ayun lamang po. So, follow-up question, if black chicken and white chicken are crossed, what is the probability that they will have Erminet chicken? No? So, ito po. So, BB times WW. So, kasi black chicken and white chicken yung i-cross natin. So, according to our findings, 100% yung BW, and then as well as a phenotypic ratio, nag-exist dito yung Erminet chicken. Kasi nag-exist 100% yung mismong Erminet chicken base dito sa findings ng ating test cross. No? So, yun lamang po. Mag-proceed na po tayo sa multiple alleles and sex-related patterns of inheritance. And somehow, Mendel's studies on the pea plants suggested that there are just 2 alleles existed for each gene, no? But that's not always the case. So, multiple alleles may exist in a population level, and different individuals in the population may have different pairs of this allele. In multiple alleles, one gene has several possible alleles for its chromosomal locus, no? So, inheritance by multiple alleles often results in more than one possible genotypes for a particular trait. So, the good example for this pattern is the human blood type na makita natin. Ito na nga, nakita na natin. Meron tayong 4 na blood type according to its phenotypic characteristic. Type A, Type B, Type AB, at saka Type O. No? So, I will explain this. So, yung patterns of inheritance ng type A is dominant as well as yung type B. Yung AB naman, it exhibits a codominant or codominance, no, based on its pattern of inheritance. And then yung O naman, it exhibits a recessive pattern of inheritance. Then ang kanilang genotype, no, yung sa type A, yung genotype niya is AA or AO. Dito naman sa type B, BB or BO, no? And then yung AB, ganun lang din naman yung kanya genotype, and then as well as sa OO, no? So ayan po. But somehow in genetics, yung kanilang genotype is hindi, ito yung gagamitin natin at hindi po ito kasi masyado siyang basic. Kumbaga, I will introduce you some just a little bit of complicated pattern of genotype na isusulat natin for each blood type, no? Para sa mga nangangarap na mag-take ng mga biology related courses. So ayan. So yun sa type O, maliliit na I lamang po siya. And then sa AB, so IA, capital IA, and then capital I, then B, no? Yung kanyang superscript. Then, ganyan po yung sa A. Ayan po. And then, somehow, pwede natin itong gamitin. Kung alam niyo naman, nakakita niyo po. Or, pwede na natin gamitin na ito na capital letter I, and then superscript na A, and then small capital letter I. Usually po, ito nakikita nyo nile-laser ko. Ito po yung kadalasang ginagamit po ng mga estudyante ngayon, no? Yan po, kaya ipapagamit ko na rin sa inyo to, no? Instead of ganito, kasi dito natin makikita yung later on may maobserbahan kayo. And then tandaan natin na ang type O is a universal donor, no? But sila lang nakaka-receive lang sila ng blood galing din sa kanilang ka-type, no? Type O lang din yung matatanggap nila. Then yung AB can donate blood to AB din, and then they are the universal receiver, no? Sa type A, can donate blood to AB or yung type A, and then they can receive blood from O, type O at saka type A, no? And then sa type B naman, yung kanilang pwede silang mag-donate ng dugo through blood type AB at saka yung B, and then they can receive blood from type O at saka type B. So, ayun po yung pattern. Para mas mag-gets nyo po. And then, sample problem number 5. Suppose 2 newborn babies were accidentally mixed up in the hospital. In an effort to determine the parents of each baby, the blood type of the babies and the parents were determined. So, ito po yung given. Si baby 1 ay type O, si baby 2 ay may type A, si Mrs. Smith ay type B, si Mr. Smith ay type B. Parehas po silang type B. And then si Mr. Brown ay type AB, and then si Mrs. Brown ay type B. No? So, ito po yun. So, they assign a legend for the traits, no? So, ayan na po. And then, determine the genotype of both parents. So, si Mr. Smith is type B as well as si Mrs. Smith, no? And then, si Mr. and Mrs. Brown, according for what I mentioned by their names, ang si Mr. Brown is type AB, and then si Mrs. Brown ay type B. Ganyan po yun. So, literally, type B times type B, and then type B, and then sa brown couple, no, sa mag-couple na brown, sila ay may taglay na type AB at saka yung type B, no. And then po determine the alleles of the parent. So ayan na po. So ayan, na-separate na natin. And then, itetest na natin according to its test cross. So, ayan po yung naging findings natin. Yan. So, si baby 1 is type O, and then si baby 2 nga pala ay may type A, no? Base dun sa given kanina. And then, si Mr. and Mrs. Smith, no, ay nasa kanila ang baby 1 or yung type O, kasi ito yung naging findings nila na talagang anak nila yon. And then somehow si Mr. and Mrs. Brown, kanila naman ang baby 2 or yung type A according to its findings, no? So nakikita niyo naman yung encircled part ng test cross. So next po, bago tayo mapunta sa sample problem number 6, baby 2 must be, explain ko lang din po ulit. Baby 2 must belong to the Brown family because Mr. Brown is the only parent with an A allele to the contribute, no? So baby 1 must belong to the Smith's family because they are the only ones with the possibility of each having a recessive alleles to pass down to the baby. So Mr. Brown has type AB blood and therefore only has a dominant A and dominant B alleles. So base sa ating findings, no recessive allele will be possible that time. So sample problem number 6, Andy Bogart have a blood type O and he marry pinakasalan niya si Mai Shiranubi with blood type AB. So I don't think kung tama ba yung hinga ba. Oo nga, kasi hinga, no? Correct me if I'm wrong na lang sa statement. So we must need to complete a Punnett score for this cross and list the possible blood types or phenotypes of your offspring. So, ayan na nga, si Andy Bogart si Andy ay merong type O and then si Mai ay merong type AB, no? So, na-determine na natin ang kanilang genotype and then according to their alleles ay na po yung naging finding. Yung kanilang genotypic ratio is 2:2, no? Nakita natin na 50%, no, yung tagline, 50% yung IA, yung capital I, superscript A, then I, and then yung 50% din yung kanyang capital letter I, then superscript B, and then I. So according to its findings, so 50% yung kanyang type A and then 50% yung kanyang type B, no? So ayun po yung kanyang answer. So mapunta na tayo sa another side of the multiple alleles, no? So they are also expressed in the color codes of rabbits. Consider the C gene which specify the coat color in rabbits that comes in 4 common alleles, no? So yung C, then CCH, and then CH, and then C, no? So yung mga phenotypes na ito is agouti, chinchilla, Himalayan, and albino. So ayan yung kanilang dominance relationship, mas dominant lang talaga ito. no? So yung color coat na ito, una is agouti, no? So they are dark brown or fully colored coat, no? So they are the most dominant, and then ito yung kanilang set ng kanilang genotype, no? So chinchilla, it is a gray or light gray colored coat. So according to its pattern of inheritance, it is more dominant pero mas lamang pa rin yung agouti, no? So ito yung set of their genotypes. Himalayan, they are the combination of black and white colors. Sometimes the entire body is white, but the leg parts, paws, areas, and tail are black. Or sometimes the entire body is black, but the ventral or the belly part and leg part are white. And the patterns of inheritance is dominant, no? And then ito yung kanilang set ng genotype. And then yung albino, they are pure white colored coat, and then they are recessive. Ito lang yung CC lang yung kanyang genotype. Then sample problem number 7, a purebred Himalayan or purebred Himalayan rabbit is mated with another Himalayan rabbit which has an albino father. What is the genotypic and phenotypic ratio of this cross? And what will be the phenotypes of if the offspring of this cross are mated with another albino rabbit? No? So let us start. So we must assign the legend, no? So ayan na po, yung rabbit 1 is purebred, homozygous, and then just observe their phenotypes as well. Just observe their genotypes as well as this rabbit 2, which consists of Himalayan rabbit have an albino father, and then they have a heterozygous. So ayan na po. So according to its findings, 2:2 yung kanyang lumabas na genotypic ratio according to its finding, no, base sa ating observation. But somehow lumabas dito sa ating phenotypic ratio is 4:0, no, or 1:0, no. So ibig sabihin po, yung kanilang magkaiba man ng kanilang genotypic set, tandaan natin na magkaparehas pa rin yung kanilang phenotype characteristic, no. They are both Himalayan, no? Himalayan rabbit. So based on the problem, the offspring of initial cross are mated again. So with an albino rabbit, so since there are two different genotypes, they will be crossed separately to determine the genotypes and phenotypes of their offspring. So ito po yung lumabas, no? Pero I think it is another set naman na, no? And then another set of ng genotype na nandito sa sa sample problem number 7, but somehow the offsprings produced in this cross are all Himalayan rabbits, di ba? So ayan na po. Yan. So the offsprings produced in this cross are 50% Himalayan rabbit and 50% albino rabbit, no? So ayan na po. 50% Himalayan and then albino is 50%. Then sample problem number 8, Hotaru's rabbit is an agouti, but one of its parents is an albino. Parent lang pala yun, I'm sorry about that. So Gato has a chinchilla rabbit, but one of its parents is in an albino rabbit. So what are the color codes they should expect if the two rabbits mated? So yung rabbit ni Hotaru ay agouti, and then kay Gato naman ay chinchilla. By the way, si Hotaru tsaka si Gato, they are magkapatid, no? And then somehow na-determine na natin yung kanilang genotype, no, according to its phenotypic characteristic, no? So ayan po yung lumabas na genotype, no? So we must determine the alleles of the parents, no? So ayan, hinanap natin sineparate natin yung genotype nila into an allele, and then i-test cross na natin. This cross may yield to offsprings with phenotypes just like agouti, chinchilla, and albino. And then nakita natin dito na 50% yung magkaiba yung kanilang genotype, no? So 1:1:1, parang ganon. And then suddenly 50% yung kanilang agouti rabbit, and then 25% yung chinchilla, and then 25% yung albino. So in terms of sex-related pattern of inheritance, every person has 23 pairs of chromosomes. Then suddenly, the X and Y chromosomes determine the gender of an individual. So XX yun sa female and then XY sa lalaki, no? So the mother can only pass an X chromosome to their offsprings while the father has a 50% chance of passing his X or Y chromosome. Thus, the sex of the baby, no, or yun nga, is determined by the father, no? According to their kind of characteristic na meron silang taglay na chromosome, no? So, sex-related patterns of inheritance refers to the inheritance of traits associated with the sex chromosomes. This pattern doesn't follow Mendel's genetic principles, no? So, unahin muna natin yung sex-linked traits, no? So, kapag sinabi natin sex-linked trait, no? So, this refers to sexually dependent inheritance of trait due to a gene located on a sex chromosome which is responsible for a specific trait. Depende na lamang po kung X or Y chromosome yun. So, a trait is due to the genes present on the X chromosome is more likely to be expressed in males as they have only one X chromosome. No? So, the presence of two X chromosomes in females can suppress its expression when one of them has the genes of the traits and the other does not. X-linked traits fall under many categories like recessive, dominant, and codominant, which influence their expression in members of both sexes. A trait due to a gene in the Y chromosome will only show in males and not in female. No? Kasi kung balikan man natin, tandaan natin yung characteristic nila na female ay merong XX chromosome and then yung male XY chromosome yun. So, examples of disorders associated with X-linked traits are the following. Una, color blindness, which is the recessive genetic disease in which the person has inability to distinguish some colors such as red and green, no? Next po is Duchenne muscular dystrophy, no? So another recessive genetic condition characterized by progressive muscle degeneration, no? So next po, Becker muscular dystrophy. So they are milder form of Duchenne that causes slowly progressive muscle weakness. Then hemophilia, they are recessive genetic disease in which the blood does not clot normally due to the insufficient amount of blood clotting proteins. So yun po yun. So next po, sample problem number 9. Ito na po, medyo komplikado lang siya ng konti. So if the father has hemophilia while the mother has no history of hemophilia, what is the chance that their offspring will have this disease? No? So, yan nga, yung normal. Tandaan natin yung kanilang genotype, no? Ng normal, at saka yung may hemophilia, and then father, and then yung mother. So, tandaan natin na yung tatay may hemophilia, and then yung nanay is wala. Nakita natin na yan, tandaan natin. According to its findings, no, all offsprings of this cross, either male or female, are normal, but females are hemophilia carriers, no, base sa ating naging findings, di ba? And then nakita naman natin dito. Ayun, no. They're hemophilia carriers kasi ayun. Kumbaga, ba't hindi natin siya na-distinguish na may hemophilia yung girl, no, yung mismong yung female offspring? That because nakita natin na mas dominant itong normal genotype na ito. Kaya nasabi na natin or na-distinguish natin na normal yung offspring na yun. Then nga, if the father is normal but the mother is a carrier of hemophilia, ano naman yung mangyayari? So in this cross, there is a 25% chance that they could have hemophilic son. The 75% of the offspring are normal, but one female is a hemophilia carrier. No, nakita natin dito. There, it is a hemophilia carrier. Ayan. Yun po. I hope na nagets nyo po. And then, sample problem number 10. If the father is normal and the mother is hemophilic, what is the chance that they have a normal offspring? So, in this cross, females are all normal but males are hemophilic. this is the reason why, um, this is the reason why hemophilia is common to males than in females even though it is an X-linked trait. No? So, ayun po yung naging findings natin sa ating test cross. Then, one of the examples of disorders associated ng Y-linked traits are the following. So, auricular hypertrichosis, they're the genetic conditions expressed as long hairs growing from the helix of the pinna. Dito naman sa ating tae ngayon. And then next, retinitis pigmentosa, they're genetically inherited disease of the eye in which the cells of the retina produce defective proteins causing vision impairment. And then, medyo malapit na tayo makatapos. So, sex-influenced trait, no? This refers to autosomal traits that are influenced by sex, no? So, the gender that is more affected shows the gene dominance. The example of this is baldness, where males are more affected than females. Thus, in males, which are the BB, capital letter B, and then yung heterozygous BB are for bald phenotype, and then BB is for the normal. However, in females na ito is for bald, and then itong klaseng genotype na ito are normal phenotype. Take note that the genes are not linked anymore to sex chromosomes. So, ayan po yung kanilang phenotypic characteristics nila. So, another example for this is the plumage, or yung tail ng peacock. A male peacock has more colorful tail than female peacock. This structure for males favor their mating behavior because the more colorful their plumage is, the easier for them to attract females, no? Kumbaga, ano bang tawag dito? Pagpapakitang gilas, no? Para sa kanila. So, next po. Last two, I think. These are traits controlled by sex-linked or autosomal genes limited to only one sex due to anatomical differences. So, common examples are birth growth, which is limited to males, and milk productions for females, no? So, ito po yung kanilang phenotypic characteristics according to their own genotypes. No? So, ayan po. So, examples are the genes that control milk yield and quality in dairy cattle, for example, are present in both bulls and cows, but their effects are expressed only in the female cattle. Barred coloring in chickens normally is visible only in the roosters. Their secondary hormonal development. They're under secondary hormonal development. So, ayun lamang po sa sobrang haba ng lesson natin. So, at this moment, no, dito na po nagtatapos yung lesson natin. So, hopefully yun nga, marami kayo na naunawan at naintindihan dun sa aking lesson. And then, abang na lang kayo sa susunod kong video. So, that's all for today. Goodbye. See you sa susunod kong lesson.